Yuck! Smell it again! That's disgusting!
That's my ass!
Who's driving? It's over 9. What? Trap car!
Additional.
Use the boots to get it!
No, no, no!
Huh? What the f?
Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime. I am your online voice for reviews of your choice, and this is BS Reviews. Today, we take a look at a 6-episode OVA anime series that has been labeled as a fan service anime and kind of functions as a mixture of Ghostbusters meets Tenchi Muyo. Talk about the anime series Geobreeders. Geobreeders is brought to by U.S. Manga Corp. It was originally created by Akihiro Ito. It was directed by Junichi Sakata, who has directed such anime as 801st TTS Airbats and Comic Party Revolution. The artwork was done by Yasuhiro Oshima, who's done artwork for such anime as the Ghost in the Shell film and Street Fighter II the animated movie. It stars the vocal talents of Debbora Rabbai as both Yuka Kikushima and Maki Umezaki, Tara Jayne as Eiko Rondo, Rachel Lillis as Takami Sakuragi, Mina Sands as Yu Himahagi, Scott Cragle as Yoichi Taba, and Megan Hollingshead as Maya. The plot of Geobreeders. Set in Ayagane City, the place has been overrun by phantom cats, weird, strange creatures that can appear as ordinary house cats, but then turn into weird, demonic, hybrid, ghost-like creatures that resemble a cross between cats and humans. They got like ears and furry arms and claws and shit. They're very strong, very dangerous, and they're terrorizing the city. So, Kagura Total Security is called in, and they're basically like the Ghostbusters, except it's all girls and only one guy instead of 4 guys and no women. They basically exterminate the phantom cats for a fee from the clients who the cats are terrorizing. They use this weird kind of computer mix of magic and science. They plug like a computer modem into a paper talisman, and it serves as kind of like an ectoplasma bomb that destroys the cats and or seals them up into the talismans. However, things get complicated when Maya, the actually only good phantom girl cat, who also works for Kagura Total Security, gets kidnapped by a mysterious organization who seems to be in league with the Phantom Cats. Now, Kagura Total Security must work together with the police force, the Hounds, who are also investigating the Phantom Cats, in order to return Maya and discover the mysterious organization that has been behind all these strange attacks. Review of the plot. I always enjoy extermination animes. They're actually one of my favorite kinds of shows, and if you don't know what that is, that's basically a show where the main cast of characters is used as an extermination force, destroying ghosts, monsters, vampires, demons, or like a police task force. I find those fun because it creates an endless assortment of possibilities, because you never know what the next case might bring, different monsters, different ghosts, different incidents. It's very interesting because it keeps the show fresh, and it's just fun to see, what hijinks these kind of teams and crews go through. However, here they focus more on just one particular breed of monster, and that's these phantom cats, who I gotta say are a kind of a neat concept. It's kind of like a rat extermination business. It's interesting that they can turn into human or humanoids and back to animals, and I really like the originality in how they design the whole capturing system. I also find it kind of ironic that this is actually a harem anime, because there's a lot of half-naked girls in here. And the reason I say it's kind of ironic is because this show kind of sends a mixed message, because it kind of also blasts men at the same time. And since men are usually the ones that fan service animes are geared towards, it's kind of hard to tell who this is exactly rooting for. And what I mean by that is that, unlike animes like Tenchi Muyo, instead of having all of the women love the main guy, Taba, they instead rip on him, and most of the show spends pretty much its entire time poking every kind of insult, joke, and, terrible tragedy to befall him. And that serves as most of the show's sense of humor, which is a big, big problem for me, actually, because I don't think that's funny. 1, because I am a guy. 2, it's bad writing to just rely all of your jokes on one person. And 3, it usually only works when the guy actually deserves it, but in this case, the guy does not. I got to say that it really tried to give a whole more mysterious edge to the show, but one of the problems with the story is that they don't really go any further with it. This whole organization that's supposedly connected to the Phantom Cats, or involved with them, if anything, gets very little airtime, explanation, or identifying. Review the characters. Like I said before, this is an all-female team with the exception of Taba. And if there's one thing the show is definitely doing right, it's presenting lots of hot young girls, making them naked practically half the time, and putting them on display in nice and oh so pretty colors. Because that's unfortunately what all these characters just have to identify themselves with. Pretty colors. Most of these characters don't have that many unique personality traits, and some of them don't really make much sense when you think about it. Yuka Kikushima, she's actually the boss of the whole organization, but she looks like she's frickin' 13 or 14 or something, so it kind of makes me wonder why the hell she's in charge. And she's probably the most confusing because on the one hand, she does seem like a very compelling character. She has an interesting personality that's actually funny. And Debbora Rabbai actually does a pretty good job discerning her voice from her other character of Maki Umezaki, who's pretty much just like the female girl version of Jigen from Lupin the Third. She's known as the Crimson Red Shooting Star. She's got a very thick accent, which helps her discern each other from her two different characters. But back to Yuka, I thought it was funny that she actually had a more funny and amusing personality, yet at the same time she does things that kind of don't make any sense. Like she rips on the main guy the entire time, and then at the end, towards the last couple episodes, they're trying to loosely say that she likes him, and it's not really presented well in her character. All we get from her character is that she's spunky and she's spoiled and childish, but that's about it. Eiko Rondo is the whole pretty girl who goes to greet the client and sweeten the deal. Tara Jayne did a pretty good job of her. She got the very cool, cold, collective voice down. Takumi Sakuragi, in my opinion, was the best voice actress here, played by Rachel Lillis, who's infamous from animes like Pokemon and Slayers. She actually had a really funny character because she had this really weird habit of freezing out and just going like, whenever she saw something her brain couldn't handle, which is pretty much everything. I also thought it was funny that she was the one girl who actually didn't rip on Taba, and she ran around on roller skates. I don't know why, I just thought that was funny. My favorite character, though, has to be Yu Himahagi, played by Mina Sands, who's this really laid-back, lazy driver girl who looks really friggin' hot for just a driver and is constantly smoking. Taba is our single guy here. Scott Cragle plays him, and he really effective job is sounding like, distressed and depressed and just totally stressed out from all the shit they put on him. And they put a lot of shit on him. I mean, he plays a typical average guy. It's very believable, very convincing performance. You can really tell that this guy sounds like he is this, down, out of luck, shit luck guy. And he's probably the most believable character in this whole thing, since a lot of these characters seem either too flat or just too nonsensical. The animation and the music. Animation does a really good job in terms of the color scheme. All these characters are beautifully brought to life in clear, shiny, 3D, bold character style. They'll have their own unique, distinguished appearance. I mean, their hairstyle, their clothes, it's very distinguishable. I like when an anime doesn't have an animation style that allows the characters to all look the same. Here, they really make a good job making the characters look so unique from each other. And even though their personality clicks are quite cliche, they really do have a very nice, stylized, smooth image of animation. And it looks fantastic with the battles with the Phantom Cats. I really think that came out nicely. Music, nothing really good here. It's just nothing. It's just kind of jazzy, kind of like dramatic sounding sometimes, but nothing to, gloat over. Flaws about the show. Setting aside all the other things that were half-assed explained in the show, probably the one thing that was the most important that feels worth noting is the problem with not explaining the character Maya. I mean, she's the only good Phantom Cat in the entire show, and you would think that that would warrant some kind of explanation as to what makes her special and sets her apart from the rest. But no, they don't. They don't explain a friggin' thing. It's just like the retarded Justice League New Frontier movie. We're going to throw every half-assed, unexplained bullshit thing and leave you scratching your heads rather than doing the logical thing and actually explaining the frickin' thing. Coupled with the fact that the villains don't make any sense in the show. They're not explained or really fleshed out that much, with cheap characters who have paper-thin personalities that are basically here to wiggle their boobs and ass at you and flash their panties. On top of that, our only sense of humor in the entire show is treating the one decently natured good guy in the show like dog shit when he clearly doesn't deserve it. Final wrap-up. A few pretty good faces, or butts and boobs, I should say. Nice animation schemes, and an interesting plot could have made this anime a little bit better. I mean, with the whole Ghostbusters similar aspect. But no, they decided to waste it by giving us cheap characters with no real depth or, personality. and just rely all of our humor to be based on one guy. I'm sorry, but that just doesn't fly with me. I think it's offensive, I think it's stupid, I think it's poor writing, which is what this show is all about. It wastes the only good opportunity and potential that it has on cheap jokes on one guy. It doesn't really go anywhere, it doesn't really explain anything. But aside from a few good performances from Debbora Rabbai, Scott Cragle, and Rachel Lillis, there's really nothing worth watching this anime except for a few good panty shots. And if you're really that hard up for some flashy butt action, I suggest you check out Agent Aika. You're going to get a lot more, and you're going to get more out of it than this show. Bottom line, Geobreeders gets 1 star out of 5 stars. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye for now.